she was taught that hunger made you worthy, but kindness made her queen. The marketplace reeked of judgment and overripe fruit. Isla moved through the crowd with her head down, her worn cloak pulled tight around her body, not against the cold, but against the stares. The whispers followed her like flies, buzzing with familiar cruelty that had long since stopped piercing and simply settled into her bones like permanent cold. Look at her, still unmarked at 23. No wonder. What Alpha would want? That? Her family can barely afford bread. She has nothing to offer. Isla's fingers tightened around the basket she carried, knuckles white beneath dirt-stained skin. 3 coppers. That was all she had left after paying the landlord who threatened eviction weekly. 3 coppers to buy enough food to feed herself and her younger sister for the next 4 days. She mentally calculated prices as she walked. Day-old bread from the baker who pitied her, bruised vegetables the vendors could not sell, maybe some grain if she haggled well. She stopped at the fishmonger's stall, eyeing the discarded fish heads he usually threw to the gulls. "Those," she said quietly. "How much?" The fishmonger, a broad man named Gareth who had mocked her weight since childhood, sneered. "For you? 2 coppers, since you clearly need the scraps. 2 coppers for garbage. But fish heads made decent broth if you boiled them long enough, added wild herbs from the forest edge, stretched it thin across multiple meals." 1 copper, Isla countered, hating the tremor in her voice. "They are scraps. You were going to discard them anyway." "Then go pick them from the garbage like the other rats." Gareth's voice carried across the market. Several people turned to watch, entertained by her humiliation. "Oh, wait, you already look like you have been living in it." Laughter rippled through nearby vendors. Isla felt heat crawl up her neck, her body, the body that had been dissected by every cruel tongue in this village, burning with shame she had long ago learned to swallow. She turned away without the fish heads, her stomach hollow and her pride in shreds. The rejection had come 3 months earlier, but it still played in her mind like a curse on endless repeat. Connor, the beta's second son, had courted her for 6 weeks. He had seemed different, kind, attentive, unbothered by her size or her poverty or the fact that she came from the lowest-ranked family in the pack. He brought her wildflowers. He walked her home through dangerous streets. He kissed her by the river and whispered promises about a future together. Then came the claiming ceremony. The entire pack had gathered to witness Connor marking his chosen mate. Isla had worn her mother's old dress, the only formal clothing she owned, let out at the seams to fit her broader frame. She had stood before the pack with hope fluttering fragile in her chest, believing that maybe, finally, someone saw value in her beyond her body and her bank account. Connor had walked past her without a glance. He had claimed Rosalind instead, the Alpha's niece, slender and wealthy, and everything Isla was not. The look on his face when the pack erupted in approval told Isla everything she needed to know. Their courtship had been a joke, a bet, perhaps, entertainment for someone who was bored. "Did you really think I would claim you?" he had said later when she confronted him, his voice filled with genuine confusion, as if she were mad for even considering it. "You are sweet, Isla. But I need a mate who elevates my status, not drags it down. Look at yourself. Look at your family. What could you possibly offer?" She had offered him kindness, loyalty, a heart that would have been faithful unto death. But in a world built on hierarchy and appearance and political advantage, those things meant nothing. Isla left the marketplace with her 3 coppers still in her pocket and her basket empty. She would go to the forest instead, gather what she could find. Mushrooms if she was lucky, edible roots if she was not. Maybe set some snares for rabbits, though the Alpha controlled hunting rights, and she was technically poaching. The forest began where the village ended, a wall of pine and shadow that most pack members avoided. Too wild, they said. Too dangerous for someone alone. But Isla had been coming here since childhood, learning from her grandmother, which plants healed and which poisoned, which mushrooms fed and which killed. She was deep in the trees, her basket slowly filling with chanterelles and wild onions, when she heard the sound. A whimper, low and pained, coming from the direction of the old stream bed. Isla froze. Every instinct screamed at her to leave, to mind her business, to not invite more trouble into a life already drowning in it. But the sound came again, desperate, dying, utterly alone. She followed it. In a hollow beside the frozen stream, a wolf lay bleeding. Not just any wolf, a massive creature with fur white as fresh snow, stained crimson from a wound in its side. A bear trap had closed around its hind leg, iron teeth sunk deep into muscle and bone. The beast's chest heaved with shallow breaths. Its eyes, pale blue like winter sky, tracked her approach with a mixture of awareness and resignation. This was a shifter. She knew it instantly. No natural wolf grew this large or watched with such intelligence. And it was dying. The trap was old, illegal, probably set by poachers from outside pack territory. The wound had festered for hours, maybe days. Infection spread in black lines beneath white fur. Without help, this shifter would die here alone in the cold, trapped and suffering. Isla should have left, should have reported it to the pack and let them handle it, should have protected herself from whatever consequences came from helping a stranger who might be enemy or threat. Instead, she knelt in the snow beside it. "I am going to help you," she said quietly, her hands already reaching for the trap's release mechanism. "This will hurt. I am sorry." The wolf's eyes closed. Permission or surrender, she could not tell. Isla braced herself and pulled the trap open with all her strength. The wolf's howl shattered the forest silence, birds exploding from trees in panicked flight. Blood poured fresh from the wound, and Isla immediately pressed her cloak against it, applying pressure while her other hand reached for her gathering basket. Yarrow for bleeding, plantain for infection, comfrey for bone. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory as her hands worked automatically, crushing herbs and packing them into the wound with strips torn from her only cloak. "Stay with me," she whispered, as the wolf's breathing grew more labored. "Stay. You are not dying alone in this forest. I will not let you." She worked until her hands were numb and bloody, until the sun began to set and the temperature dropped dangerously. The wolf's breathing steadied. The bleeding slowed. But it was too weak to shift, too injured to move. Isla made a decision that would change everything. She built a shelter from pine branches and her ruined cloak. She started a fire with flint and dry moss, feeding it carefully until warmth pushed back the deadly cold. She gathered more herbs, brewing them into a paste that she applied to the wound every few hours throughout the long night. And she stayed. While the wolf slept and the forest grew dark and dangerous around them, Isla stayed, keeping watch, feeding the fire, singing the old healing songs her grandmother had taught her under this same moon years ago. She did not know who this shifter was, did not know if it would thank her or kill her when it woke, did not know if she was saving a friend or an enemy. She only knew that leaving a living thing to die alone in the cold was not something she could do and still call herself human. So she stayed through the night, cold and exhausted and covered in blood that was not hers, keeping a stranger alive because it was the right thing to do, even if it cost her everything. Dawn came pale and reluctant. The wolf's eyes opened, clear now, aware, and fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. And in that moment, Isla felt something shift in the air between them. Recognition, gratitude, and something deeper that had no name yet but felt like destiny reaching out its hand. And now, I invite you to leave a trace of your presence in the comments. Tell us where in the world you're watching from, and the exact hour you hear this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel, and at what moments of the night they find you. The wolf shifted as dawn broke through the pines. Isla watched in fascination and fear as white fur rippled and reformed, bones restructuring with sounds that should have been sickening but somehow felt natural. Within moments, a man lay where the wolf had been, tall, broad-shouldered, with silver-white hair that fell past his collarbone and eyes that remained the same pale blue. He was also completely naked. Isla immediately turned away, heat flooding her face. Your clothes were shredded when the trap caught me 3 days ago. His voice was rough from disuse and pain, but cultured, the accent of someone educated beyond village schools. I apologize for the immodesty. Isla fumbled with her basket, pulling out the remnants of her cloak and tossing it toward him without looking. It is ruined anyway, from the blood. You can cover yourself. Silence then. Thank you for this and for everything else. I should be dead. You almost were. Isla finally turned back to find him sitting up, her tattered cloak wrapped around his waist. The wound on his leg still looked terrible, inflamed and deep, but the infection had stopped spreading. That trap was meant for bears, illegal even by poacher standards. Who are you? Why were you alone out here? His pale eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. I could ask you the same. What pack member risks herself for a strange wolf, especially one who might be enemy? I could not leave you to die. Isla began repacking her basket, suddenly aware of how vulnerable she was. Alone with an unknown shifter, hours from help, with no one who would even notice if she disappeared. That is not. I do not do that. Leave things to suffer. Even when helping puts you at risk. Even then. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, my name is Theron. I was, traveling through when the trap caught me. I have been here 3 days, unable to shift, unable to call for help. I thought I would die here. Well, you did not, but you cannot walk on that leg yet. The bone is damaged. You need proper rest, and continued treatment or infection will return. Isla hesitated. I cannot bring you to my village. There are questions I cannot answer about why I was in the forest, why I have poacher's trap wounds on my hands, why I am helping a stranger. Then what do you suggest? There is an old hunter's cabin about an hour from here, abandoned for years but structurally sound. I can bring you there, help you recover enough to travel, and then we part ways. No questions, no obligations. Theron's gaze remained fixed on her face, searching for something. Why? Why help me at all if you want no acknowledgement or reward? Isla met his eyes steadily. Because leaving you to die would make me the same as the people who mock me in the marketplace, who reject me for my body and my poverty, who treat kindness like weakness and compassion like foolishness. I refuse to become them just because they have hurt me. Something shifted in Theron's expression, surprise and respect, and something deeper that made her breath catch. You are remarkable, he said quietly. I am practical. Now can you walk if I support you? We need to move before the day hunters come through. The journey to the cabin took 3 hours instead of 1. Theron's leg barely supported weight, and Isla, strong from years of manual labor but untrained in carrying injured shifters, struggled with his size. They moved slowly, painfully, stopping frequently for rest. By the time they reached the cabin, both were exhausted. Isla settled Theron on the old cot and immediately set about making the space livable, sweeping out debris, checking the roof for leaks, starting a fire in the ancient hearth. You have done this before, Theron observed, watching her work with quiet admiration. My grandmother and I used to come here, before she died, before the pack decided her healing knowledge was witchcraft. Isla's voice tightened. They burned her remedies, called her dangerous. She died 6 months later from a fever that her own medicines could have cured if they had not destroyed them all. I am sorry. Everyone is sorry. No one did anything to stop it. Isla pulled herbs from her basket and began preparing fresh poultices. The same people who condemned her come to me now, secretly, when their physicians fail. They want my grandmother's knowledge, but refuse to honor her memory. They want healing, but hate the healer. She applied the new poultice to his wound with practiced efficiency, her touch gentle despite her obvious anger. Theron watched her work in silence, his pale eyes tracking every movement. "You carry great pain," he said finally. "We all do. Some of us just do not have the luxury of showing it." They fell into a routine over the next 5 days. Isla came each morning before dawn, bringing food she could barely spare: bread, dried meat, foraged vegetables. She changed Theron's dressings, monitored his healing, taught him exercises to strengthen the injured leg. They talked during the long hours, carefully at first, then with increasing honesty. He told her about his travels, though she sensed he was editing carefully. He spoke of distant territories, political tensions, the weight of leadership responsibilities he did not quite name. She suspected he was more than a simple traveler, but did not push. She told him about Connor's rejection, about the marketplace cruelty, about her sister Maya, who was 12 and brilliant and deserved better than poverty, and a village that would judge her the same way they judged Isla. "They are fools," Theron said fiercely when she described Connor's betrayal. "Beauty is not measured by size or wealth. It is measured by the size of one's heart, the strength of one's character. This Connor saw your worth and was too weak to claim it properly. That is his failure, not yours." Isla felt tears prick her eyes. "You do not have to say such things to make me feel better." "I am not trying to make you feel better. I am stating facts." He reached for her hand, his larger one engulfing hers. "You saved my life. You sacrificed your own resources, food, clothing, time you cannot afford to lose, to help a stranger. You come here every day despite the risk to yourself. You are brave and skilled and compassionate. Any pack would be honored to claim you. My pack was not. Then they are blind." His thumb traced circles on her palm, the gesture oddly intimate. "If I had a pack to offer, I would claim you without hesitation. Not despite your body or your poverty, but because of who you are beneath those superficial things." Isla pulled her hand away, suddenly afraid of the hope building in her chest. "You do not mean that. You are grateful because I helped you. That is different from actually wanting." "Is it? Are you so certain?" She met his pale eyes and saw something there that terrified and thrilled her equally. Want. Real, genuine want that had nothing to do with obligation or gratitude. "Yes," she whispered, though she was not certain at all. Theron smiled sadly. "Then I will not push. But Isla, thank you, for seeing me as more than a dying wolf, for treating me with dignity when I was helpless, for reminding me that kindness still exists in this world." "You are welcome." But as she left the cabin that evening, Isla's heart was racing with possibilities she did not dare name. On the 6th day, Isla arrived at the cabin to find Theron standing, fully dressed in clothing she had scrounged from the village's donation bin, testing his weight on the injured leg. "It holds," he said, seeing her expression. "Still painful, but functional. Another few days, and I will be able to travel." Isla felt something twist in her chest. Relief that he was healing. Grief that he would leave. "Where will you go?" "Home, to responsibilities I have been neglecting." He crossed to her carefully. "Come with me." The invitation hung in the air like summer lightning, bright, dangerous, impossible. "I cannot. My sister, bring her. My home is a village that treats you with cruelty. I am offering you something different. A place where your skills would be valued, your knowledge honored, where no one would mock you for the size of your body or the depth of your poverty. You do not even know me. Not really. 6 days is not enough to... I know you saved my life when you had every reason not to. I know you come here every morning with food you can barely afford to share. I know you sing healing songs your grandmother taught you and that you see beauty in mushrooms and frost. I know you are brave and kind and stronger than anyone who has judged you. That is enough. Isla's eyes filled with tears. What are you really offering? Because I will not be someone's obligation or charity case. I will not trade one form of pity for another. Theron cupped her face gently. I am offering you a choice. Come with me. Let me show you a place where healers are honored as much as warriors. Let me introduce you to people who would see your worth. And if, after seeing it all, you still want to return here, I will bring you back myself and never speak of it again. But at least give yourself the chance to see that there is more to the world than this village's cruelty. And what do you get from this? The hope that you might stay, that you might choose me the way I am choosing you. Isla searched his face for deception and found only raw honesty. I need time to think, to prepare Maya, to... Take all the time you need. I will be here. That night, Isla sat with Maya in their tiny, cold room above the baker's shop, the only housing they could afford after their parents died. There is a man, Isla began carefully. He is offering us a chance to leave, to go somewhere better. Maya, small and sharp-eyed at 12, studied her sister. What is the cost? I do not know yet. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. Do you trust him? Isla thought about Theron's pale eyes, his gratitude, the way he looked at her like she was precious. I think I do. Which terrifies me. Because Connor destroyed your trust. Because everyone destroys it eventually. People see me as useful, or entertaining, or pitiable, but never as valuable in my own right. Maya took her hand. Then maybe this man is different. Or maybe he is the same. But either way, do we have anything to lose? We are already at the bottom. We cannot fall further. The brutal logic of a 12-year-old who had grown up too fast in a world that gave them nothing. You would leave everything? What everything? Maya gestured at their bare room. I would leave this, gladly, if there is even a chance of something better. 2 days later, Isla returned to the cabin with Maya. Theron had clearly been expecting the answer from her expression. We will come, Isla said, for a trial. If it is not what you promised, then I bring you back, with coin enough to improve your situation here. You have my word. He knelt carefully to Maya's level. And you must be the brilliant sister I have heard so much about. Maya studied him with the same shrewd assessment she gave everything. Are you going to hurt her? No. Do you promise? I do, on my life and honor. Maya nodded, apparently satisfied. Then we have a deal. They left at dawn 3 days later, before the village woke. Theron, now walking with only a slight limp, led them through forest paths Isla had never traveled. They walked for hours, then days, moving steadily north into territory that grew progressively wilder and more beautiful. On the 4th day, they crested a ridge and Isla gasped. A fortress rose from the mountainside, all stone and iron and impossible scale. Banners flew from towers, a white wolf on a silver field. What is this place? Isla whispered. Theron turned to her, his pale eyes gentle. Home, the northern keep, seat of the Alpha King. Isla's blood went cold. Alpha King. You said you were a traveler. I said I was traveling, which was true. I never said I was common. He took her hand carefully. I am Theron, Alpha King of the Northern Territories. I was investigating poacher activity on my borders when the trap caught me. And you, Isla, saved your king's life without knowing it. Maya's eyes went wide. Isla felt dizzy. Why did you not tell me? Because I wanted you to know me as Theron first, as a man, not a title. Because the moment people know I am king, Everything changes. They see the crown instead of the person. But you saw me bleeding in a trap and chose kindness anyway. You did not care about status or power. You cared that I was suffering. You lied. I omitted. There is a difference. But if it changes things, if you want to leave, say the word. I will keep my promise. Isla looked at the fortress, then at Theron, then at Maya, who was practically vibrating with excitement. She thought about the village that had rejected her, the marketplace that mocked her, the future of poverty and cruelty that awaited them there. And she thought about a wolf with pale eyes who had called her remarkable. "We stay," she said finally. "But Theron, if this is some elaborate joke, if you are playing games with me the way Connor did—" "I am not. I swear it on the moon and my crown." He squeezed her hand gently. "Come. Let me show you what your kindness has earned you, and then you decide if a king is worthy of a healer." They walked toward the keep together, and Isla felt her life shift irrevocably, from rejection to possibility, from poverty to chance, from invisibility to being seen by someone who mattered. And now I invite you to leave a trace of your presence in the comments. Tell us where in the world you're watching from, and the exact hour you hear this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel, and at what moments of the night they find you. The court's reaction was immediate and hostile. Theron had disappeared for 3 weeks. His guard had been searching frantically. The council had been on the verge of declaring him dead and triggering succession protocols. And now he returned with a common Omega and her child's sister, demanding they be housed in the royal guest quarters. Commander Soren, a scarred veteran with gray in his beard, pulled Theron aside within an hour of their arrival. Isla watched from across the courtyard as the conversation grew heated, Soren's gestures sharp with frustration. Finally, Theron's voice carried, "She saved my life. That earns her protection and hospitality. Anyone who challenges this challenges me." But protection did not mean acceptance. The servants who showed Isla and Maya to their chambers moved with stiff formality. The nobles they passed whispered behind hands, their eyes dissecting Isla's body with familiar cruelty. At dinner that first night, which Theron insisted they attend despite Isla's protests, the silence when they entered was deafening. Isla wore the best dress she owned, let out carefully at the seams. Beside the noblewomen in their silks and jewels, she felt like a sparrow among peacocks. Theron seated her at his right hand, the position of honor. The gesture was not lost on anyone. An older woman with steel-gray hair and a neck dripping with diamonds leaned forward. "Your Majesty, you have not introduced your guests. This is Isla. She is a healer of exceptional skill who saved my life when poachers' traps nearly killed me. And this is her sister, Maya." Theron's voice carried authority. "They are under my direct protection. How fortunate for them." The woman's smile did not reach her eyes. "And how long will they be enjoying our hospitality?" "As long as they wish." Murmurs rippled through the assembled nobles. Isla felt each stare like needles, each whisper like blades. This was a mistake, she thought. She should never have come here. As if sensing her distress, Theron's hand found hers beneath the table, warm and steady, an anchor in the storm of judgment surrounding them. After dinner, Theron walked them back to their chambers. "They hate me," Isla said flatly. "They fear change. They fear losing influence if I favor someone outside their careful hierarchies. Give them time. Time will not change how I look or where I come from." Theron stopped, turning her to face him. "Do you want to leave? Be honest. If this is too much—" "No." The word surprised her with its vehemence. "No, I will not run because they whisper. I have survived worse. I need to find my place here, to be useful. Sitting in silk chambers while servants judge me is not sustainable." "Then what do you need?" "Let me work. You said healers are valued here. Let me prove that value. Show me your infirmary. Let me help. Theron smiled, genuine and warm. Done. Tomorrow I will introduce you to the head physician. But tonight, rest. You have earned it. After he left, Maya curled up beside Isla in the enormous bed. He loves you, the girl said matter-of-factly. He is grateful. That is different. Is it? Because the way he looks at you is not gratitude. It is hunger. Good hunger, though. The kind that wants to keep you safe and see you happy. Isla stroked her sister's hair. You are 12. What do you know about hunger? More than I should. I have watched you starve yourself to feed me. I have seen how men look at you with contempt, and Connor looked at you like entertainment. This king does not look at you either way. He looks at you like treasure he is afraid of losing. From the mouths of children, truths adults spent years denying. The infirmary was a revelation. Clean, well-stocked, organized with military efficiency. The head physician, an elderly woman named Marin with shrewd eyes and gentle hands, assessed Isla with the same clinical detachment she probably used on patients. The king says you have skill, show me. A young guard had cut his hand badly in training. Isla examined the wound, noting bone-deep lacerations and early signs of infection. This needs thorough cleaning first, then stitching in layers, muscle, then skin. Yarrow paste for bleeding, honey for infection, comfrey for faster healing. She looked at Marin. May I? Proceed. Isla worked with focused intensity, her hands steady despite the audience. She cleaned, stitched, dressed the wound while explaining each step. When she finished, the guard's hand was professionally bandaged and pain-free. Marin examined her work critically. Good. Clean stitching. Proper technique. Your knowledge is practical, not just theoretical. She paused. Your grandmother taught you? Yes. She learned from her grandmother. Old knowledge, passed down. The best kind. Marin gestured to the supply shelves. You may work here, mornings primarily. I need help with the soldiers. They injure themselves constantly and complain like children. Your hands are skilled. Use them. It was not warm acceptance, but it was respect. Isla felt something loosen in her chest. Thank you. Do not thank me. Prove you belong here. The court will watch for any mistake, any reason to call you incompetent or dangerous. Do not give them ammunition. Over the following weeks, Isla established herself in the infirmary. She treated training injuries, illness, chronic conditions the other physicians had dismissed. She introduced remedies the court had never seen, poultices that reduced scarring, teas that eased joint pain, salves that healed burns faster. Soldiers who had initially eyed her with suspicion began requesting her specifically. The healer with the soft hands, they called her, the one who does not judge you for screaming. Word spread. Servants came with ailments they had hidden from the regular physicians, afraid of losing positions if they seemed weak. Isla treated them all equally, charging nothing, asking only that they take care of themselves. Maya, meanwhile, charmed her way into the keep's library. The scholars found her brilliant and insatiable for knowledge. She devoured books on history, mathematics, languages, everything their poverty had denied her. And Theron. Theron courted Isla with a patience that both frustrated and moved her. He brought her rare herbs from distant territories. He sat with her in the infirmary, learning her methods. He walked with her through the keep's gardens in the evenings, talking about everything and nothing. He never pushed for more than she offered, never made demands, never treated her like an obligation. Why? She asked one evening as they watched the sunset from the ramparts. Why do this? You are a king. You could have anyone. Why choose someone like me? Someone like you? Theron's voice held an edge. You mean someone brave enough to save a dying stranger? Someone skilled enough to earn a master healer's respect in weeks? Someone kind enough to treat servants with the same care as nobles? Someone fat and poor and common. Someone beautiful and resourceful and extraordinary. He turned to face her fully. Isla, I have been surrounded by nobility my entire life. Beautiful people with empty hearts, wealthy people with no compassion, powerful people who see others as tools. You are the opposite of everything this court values, and that is precisely why you are invaluable. Pretty words, true words. I want you beside me not despite who you are, but because of it, because you make me better, because you remind me why I fight to protect this kingdom, to create a place where people like you and Maya can thrive instead of merely survive. Isla felt tears threaten. I am afraid of believing you, of hoping this is real, of trusting that you will not wake up one day and realize you made a mistake. Then be afraid, but stay anyway. Let me prove myself over time. Let me show you that some men keep their promises. He kissed her hand, gentle, reverent, and left her alone with her thoughts in the setting sun. Comment, Luna, if you'd walk through the storm for someone who saw your worth. 3 months after her arrival, crisis struck. A plague swept through the lower villages, fast-moving, deadly, turning strong adults into corpses within days. The court physicians were baffled. Their treatments failed. The death toll climbed. Theron called an emergency council. We need solutions. Now. The head physician stood. Your Majesty, this is beyond our knowledge. The symptoms match no known disease. We are losing patients faster than we can treat them. Then find someone who can treat them. All eyes turned to Isla. She stood slowly, feeling the weight of their attention. I need to see the patients, examine them personally. My grandmother's knowledge included epidemic response, but I must assess before I can recommend treatment. Lord Brennan, a nobleman who had made no secret of his contempt for her presence, scoffed. You would trust our people's lives to a common healer with no formal training? This is madness. This is desperation, Theron countered. And Isla has proven her skill repeatedly. She goes with my full authority. Isla rode to the infected villages with an escort of 20 guards, and Maya insisting on coming despite the danger. What she found was devastating. Entire families dead, survivors too weak to bury them, children orphaned and terrified. She moved through the villages methodically, examining bodies, questioning survivors, analyzing water sources and food supplies. And she found the pattern. The wells, she told the guards. Someone poisoned the wells with a compound designed to mimic plague. This is not natural disease. This is biological warfare. The guards exchanged grim looks. Who would do this? I do not know, but I can counteract it. She worked for 5 days straight, brewing antidotes from charcoal and clay and rare herbs, teaching local healers her methods. Treating hundreds of patients. Her hands glowed silver as she worked, a manifestation of her gift she could no longer hide. The villagers whispered, Moonblood, Pathfinder, the old words for healers blessed by the goddess. By the end of the week, the death rate had dropped to 0. Survivors were recovering, and Isla had samples of the poison to bring back for analysis. The court's reaction was divided. Half saw her as a hero who had saved hundreds. Half whispered that her glowing hands proved she was a witch, dangerous and unnatural. Lord Brennan led the opposition. She admits this was poison, not disease. How do we know she did not create it herself to appear heroic? To secure her position here? That is absurd, Commander Soren snapped. She had no access to those villages before the outbreak. That we know of. She appeared from nowhere. We know nothing of her true origins or loyalties. The council erupted in argument. Theron's hands clenched on his throne's arms, and Isla could see him fighting the urge to defend her through pure authority. She stood instead. Lord Brennan is right to question. Trust should be earned, not demanded. Her voice carried across the chamber. I cannot prove I did not cause this. I can only show you the evidence and let you judge. But know this, I will continue treating the sick regardless of your opinion, because that is what healers do. We serve those in need, not those in power. The simplicity of her statement seemed to deflate the opposition. Several council members nodded slowly. "She stays," Theron said firmly. "She works under Marin's supervision, and we investigate who actually poisoned those wells, because someone wanted those people dead." The investigation revealed a plot by a rival Alpha to destabilize Theron's territories before launching an invasion. The poisoner was caught, tried, and executed. Isla's name was cleared publicly, but the damage to her position was done. Half the court now feared her glowing hands. The other half resented her influence over their king. Theron found her in the infirmary late one night, treating a child's fever while Maya slept in the corner. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I brought you here promising safety and instead gave you more judgment. The judgment does not surprise me. People fear what they do not understand. My grandmother faced the same." Isla finished bandaging the child's forehead. "What surprises me is that you keep defending me. Kings do not usually sacrifice political capital for common healers. You are not common, and I am not sacrificing anything. I am investing in what matters." He pulled her gently away from the sleeping child into a quiet corner. "Isla, I know this has been harder than I promised, but I need you to understand something." "What?" "I am falling in love with you. Have been since you pulled that trap open with your bare hands and told a dying king you would not let him suffer alone. Every day since has only proven what I already knew, that you are exactly the kind of person I want beside me, not as obligation, not as charity, but as equal, as partner, as queen, if you will have me." Isla's breath caught. "Queen? Theron, I am everything I need. Everything this kingdom needs. Someone who heals instead of harms, who questions instead of blindly follows, who sees value in the forgotten and dignity in the desperate." His hands framed her face. "I know you do not believe you are worthy, but I am asking you to trust me, to let me show you what I see when I look at you. And if the court never accepts me, then they will learn, or they will leave. But I will not choose them over you, not ever." Isla searched his pale eyes for doubt and found only certainty. This king, who had every reason to choose someone easier, someone acceptable, someone who would not cost him political battles, was choosing her anyway. "I need time," she whispered, "to think, to be sure this is not gratitude or guilt or—" "Take all the time you need. I will be here, waiting, hoping, but never forcing." He kissed her forehead, gentle and reverent, and left her alone with her thoughts and her sleeping sister and the child whose fever was finally breaking. And for the first time since arriving at the keep, Isla let herself believe that maybe, possibly, she was exactly where she belonged. Spring turned to summer, and Isla's position solidified. The epidemic she had stopped became legend. Villagers traveled days to seek her treatment. Soldiers requested her for injuries. Even some nobles, quietly, shamefully, came to her when their regular physicians failed. Marin officially named her assistant head healer, a position that came with authority and a small salary. Isla sent most of it to former neighbors in her old village, helping families who had been kind when they could afford nothing. Maya thrived in the library, her brilliance earning respect from scholars twice her age. She was learning languages, mathematics, even strategic theory from the military advisors who found her questions sharp and insightful. And Theron continued his patient courtship. He brought Isla to council meetings, asking her opinion on healthcare policies. He walked with her through villages, listening as she explained what communities needed: better sanitation, nutrition education, access to basic medicines. He implemented her suggestions, and the territory's health improved measurably. But he never pushed for more than friendship, though Isla could see the want in his eyes when he thought she was not looking. One evening, 6 months after her arrival, Isla found him in the throne room alone, staring at his father's portrait with an expression of deep weariness. Bad day? She asked softly. Long day. The Southern Alphas are testing boundaries again. They see my healthcare reforms as weakness. They want proof I can still be as strong as my father. Strength is not measured only by dominance. Your father ruled through fear and force. You rule through loyalty and improvement. That is harder, not weaker. Theron smiled tiredly. You always know what to say. I always say what I think. Sometimes they are the same thing. Isla sat beside him on the dais steps. Tell me about him. Your father. He was everything a warrior king should be. Powerful, undefeated in combat, absolutely certain of his decisions, and completely alone. My mother died in childbirth. He never bonded with anyone after. He ruled for 40 years without a queen, without softness, without anyone to remind him that power serves people, not itself. And you do not want to be him. I want to be better. But the court expects me to be identical. They want the strong, solitary king who never questions, never hesitates, never shows vulnerability. And instead, they have me, a king who admits mistakes, who values healers as much as warriors, who wants a partner instead of ruling alone. Isla took his hand carefully. The court will adapt, or they will not. But you cannot become someone else just to satisfy their expectations. That path leads nowhere good. And if I lose their support? If my reforms and my choices cost me the throne? Then you lose it knowing you tried to build something better. That matters more than keeping power through compromise with your values. Theron looked at her with such intensity she felt breathless. How did I survive without you? You were surviving. Now you are living. There is a difference. He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. Isla, I have been patient. I have given you space and time and every opportunity to leave. But I need to know, is there any possibility you could love me? Not Theron the king, but me, the man who was dying in a trap when you found him. Isla's heart raced. I already do. I have been fighting it because I am terrified. Because every time I have trusted someone with my heart, they have destroyed it. Because I keep waiting for you to realize you made a mistake. I made no mistake. You are the best decision I have ever made. I am afraid. Then be afraid with me. But stay. Choose me the way I have chosen you. Let me prove over years what I cannot prove in months, that I see you, I value you, I love you exactly as you are. Isla looked into his pale blue eyes and saw her future. Not perfect, not easy, but real and honest and worth the risk. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I choose you. I choose this. I choose us. Theron kissed her then, not desperate or demanding, but tender and full of promise. A beginning, not an ending. When they pulled apart, Isla was crying. What is wrong? Nothing. Everything. I spent so long believing I was worthless, that my body made me unlovable, that poverty and rejection defined me. And you see through all of that to who I actually am. You make me believe I am worth choosing. You are worth choosing. You have always been worth choosing. The world was just too blind to see it. They sat together on the steps, holding each other as moonlight streamed through the high windows, and for the first time in her life, Isla felt completely at peace. The next morning, Theron called a formal assembly. The entire court gathered, nobles, guards, servants, advisors. Isla stood beside Maya in the crowd, confused. Theron descended from his throne, commanding every eye. 6 months ago, I was dying in a trap, abandoned, suffering. I had accepted death, and then a woman found me. A stranger with no obligation to help, no reason to risk herself. She saved my life, not because I was king. She did not know that. She saved me because she could not walk past suffering without addressing it. He gestured to Isla. Come here. Isla's heart hammered as she made her way through the crowd to stand before him. Theron took her hands. Isla, You have proven your value to this kingdom 100 times over. You have saved lives, improved health, taught us that strength comes in many forms. You have earned the respect of warriors and the love of those you have healed. And you have earned my love through your courage, your compassion, your refusal to compromise who you are for anyone's comfort." He dropped to one knee, and the crowd gasped. "I am asking you, before my court, before the witnesses of my kingdom, will you stand beside me? Not as healer to king, but as equal to equal, queen to king, partner in all things. Will you let me spend my life proving that you are exactly who I need, who this kingdom needs, who I have been waiting for without knowing it?" Tears streamed down Isla's face. Behind her, she heard Maya's delighted squeal. "Yes," she said clearly, voice carrying across the silent chamber. "Yes, I will." The court erupted, some in genuine celebration, some in polite obligation, some in barely concealed disapproval. But none of it mattered. Theron stood and kissed her, and Isla felt her old life, the rejection, the poverty, the cruelty, finally release its hold on her heart. She was chosen, completely, irrevocably, by someone who saw her worth when the world saw only her weight and her empty pockets, and she chose him back, not for his crown, but for his character. Not for what he could give her, but for who he was beneath the power. Two broken people, healed by each other's acceptance. Subscribe if you believe mercy can crown even the fallen. The wedding preparations revealed every fault line in court politics. Traditional nobles insisted on formal protocols, ancient rituals, specific bloodlines required in the ceremony, guest lists that excluded anyone below a certain rank. Progressive advisors argued for modernization, simpler ceremonies, inclusion of common people, breaking with traditions that no longer served. Theron let them argue for exactly one meeting before shutting it down. "This is not a political statement. This is my marriage. Isla and I will design the ceremony we want. Anyone uncomfortable with our choices is welcome to skip it." The announcement sent shockwaves through the court. Lady Cordelia, one of the most traditional nobles, actually fainted. Lord Brennan demanded an audience to discuss the king's duty to tradition. Commander Sorin, surprisingly, stood firmly behind Theron's decision. "The king has made his choice. A good choice. The rest is noise." Isla designed a ceremony that honored both their backgrounds. They would marry at dawn in the forest clearing where she had found him, returning to the place their bond began. The court could attend if they wished, but the ceremony would be simple. Traditional vows, exchange of silver bands, recognition by the pack rather than elaborate ritual. Maya would stand as Isla's witness, Commander Sorin as Theron's. "Are you certain?" Theron asked as they planned. "This will offend the traditional nobility. They expect grandeur and spectacle." "Let them be offended. I will not start our marriage by pretending to be someone I am not. If they cannot accept a simple forest ceremony, they will never accept me anyway. You are magnificent when you are stubborn. I am magnificent always. You just notice more when I agree with you." Theron laughed, genuine and free, and pulled her close. 3 weeks, then you are officially mine, and I am officially yours." "I am already yours. The ceremony just makes it public." 2 weeks before the wedding, disaster struck. Lord Brennan's faction attempted a coup. They stormed the throne room during a council meeting, armed and organized, demanding Theron abdicate in favor of his cousin, a traditionalist who would restore proper order. The battle was brief but brutal. Theron fought with the skill of a warrior king, his white wolf form tearing through attackers with deadly efficiency. Commander Sorin's guards overwhelmed the rebels within minutes, but Theron was injured, a blade across his ribs, deep and bleeding. They brought him to the infirmary where Isla was treating a servant's broken arm. She saw the blood and felt her heart stop. "Clear the room," she commanded, her voice steady despite terror. "Maya, get my emergency kit. Maren, prepare the surgical supplies. She worked with focused intensity, cleaning the wound, stitching layers of muscle and tissue, monitoring for internal bleeding. Her hands glowed silver bright as she worked, channeling every bit of healing knowledge her grandmother had ever taught. Theron stayed conscious throughout, his pale eyes fixed on her face. "Do not you dare die on me," Isla whispered fiercely as she worked. "Not after everything, not when we are this close. Not planning to, have a wedding to attend. Jokes. You are making jokes while I stitch your organs. Coping mechanism. Also, wanted you to know I am conscious and coherent in case you were worried. I am furious with you for getting stabbed. Worry comes after fury." Despite the blood and pain, Theron smiled. "I love you. I love you too. Now shut up and let me save your life, again." The coup attempt's aftermath was swift. Lord Brennan and his co-conspirators were tried and exiled, Theron refusing to execute them despite Commander Soren's recommendations. "Enough death," Theron said firmly. "Exile and asset forfeiture. They lose power and influence, but keep their lives. That is mercy with consequences." The court was divided. Some saw it as weakness, others as the new direction Theron had promised. Justice without unnecessary cruelty. Isla, watching from beside his bed where he was recovering, felt pride swell in her chest. This was the man she was marrying, someone who chose mercy even when vengeance was justified. "You could have killed them," she said later when they were alone. "I could have. My father would have. But I am not my father, and you have taught me that strength is not measured by how much violence you are willing to commit. They tried to murder you, and failed. Now they live with that failure in exile while I live here, with you, building something better. Which of us truly won?" Isla kissed him gently, mindful of his healing wound. "We did. We won." 3 weeks after the coup, on the first day of autumn, Isla and Theron married in the forest clearing. She wore a simple dress, well made but unpretentious, the color of cream and embroidered with silver wolves. Maya had woven wildflowers into her hair. No jewels, no crown, just Isla as she was. Theron wore formal attire, but not his royal regalia. Just a man, promising himself to a woman. The forest was filled with witnesses, nobles who had chosen to attend despite their discomfort, soldiers who respected their king's choice, servants who loved their healer, villagers who had traveled days to see the woman who had saved them marry their king, and Maya, crying happy tears, standing as witness to her sister's transformation from rejected to chosen. The ceremony was brief, traditional vows spoken under open sky, silver bands exchanged, simple, unadorned, exactly what they wanted. Commander Soren formally recognizing the bond on behalf of the pack. "Do you, Theron, Alpha King, take this woman as your equal and your queen?" "I do. Before the moon and all assembled, I claim her as mine and offer myself as hers." "And do you, Isla, healer and pathfinder, take this man as your equal and your king?" "I do. Before the moon and all assembled, I claim him as mine and offer myself as his. Then by ancient law and pack recognition, I declare you bound, one heart, one purpose, one future." They kissed as the forest erupted in howls and cheers. The feast afterward was held in the keep's great hall, but with modifications. Common people mixed with nobles, servants sat alongside soldiers, the rigid hierarchy temporarily suspended in celebration. Lord Cordelia looked scandalized. Most of the court adapted. And Ela, sitting beside Theron at the high table, felt finally completely accepted. Late in the celebration, an old woman approached, a villager Isla had treated during the epidemic. "Your Majesty," she said to Isla, the title still strange to hear. "Thank you for seeing us, for healing my grandson when the sickness came, for being queen who remembers what it is like to suffer." Isla took the woman's weathered hands. I will never forget. That is my promise. Every policy, every decision. I will remember what it feels like to be dismissed and afraid and desperate. And I will fight to ensure fewer people experience that. The woman cried and blessed her, and Isla felt the weight and privilege of her new role settle over her shoulders. If your heart beat alongside ours, like, comment, and subscribe. Because every soul that joins our moon keeps the flame of redemption alive. The first year of Isla's reign as queen transformed the Northern Territories. She established free healing clinics in every major village, staffed by healers she personally trained in her grandmother's methods. She created nutrition programs for struggling families. She reformed the healthcare system to prioritize prevention over emergency response. The nobles complained about costs. Isla showed them data. Healthier populations meant more productive workers, fewer epidemics, stronger military recruitment. Economics they could understand. Slowly, grudgingly, they approved her budgets. Theron supported every initiative, using his political capital to push reforms through resistant councils. Together, they were formidable. His authority combined with her practical knowledge, his strategic thinking combined with her compassion. We make a good team, he said one evening after a particularly contentious council meeting they had won through careful argument and compromise. We make the only team that matters. Isla was tired but satisfied. Did you see Lord Cordelia's face when she realized my clinic proposal would reduce the epidemic risk to her estates? Self-interest is a powerful motivator. You are learning politics. I am learning how to get what I need by letting them think it was their idea. Theron laughed and pulled her close. My brilliant queen. But success brought new challenges. A delegation arrived from the Southern Territories, including Connor, the man who had rejected Isla years before. He stared at her across the throne room, shock evident on his face. Isla, dressed in royal finery with a crown of silver on her head, barely recognized the man she had once loved. Your Majesty, Connor managed, bowing. I did not realize that the woman you rejected for being fat and poor would become queen? Isla's voice was cool. Yes, life is surprising that way. The delegation's business was trade agreements and border security, professional discussions that had nothing to do with past relationships. But Connor kept staring at her throughout the meetings, his expression a mixture of regret and calculation. On the final day, he requested a private audience. Theron's jaw tightened. Absolutely not. Let him speak, Isla said calmly. I am curious what he could possibly want to say. They met in a formal receiving room with guards present. Connor stood awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable. I wanted to apologize, he began, for how I treated you, for the cruelty. I was young and stupid and calculating, Isla interrupted. You were not stupid. You made a deliberate choice to humiliate me publicly for social advancement. Own that. Connor flinched. You are right. I did. And I have regretted it ever since. Have you? Or do you regret it now that I have power and you realize what you missed? Silence. That is what I thought. Isla stood. Your apology is noted but not needed. You did me a favor by rejecting me. If you had claimed me, I would never have left that village, never met Theron, never become who I am now. So thank you, actually, for showing me I deserved better than you. Connor's face reddened. Rosalind left me. 6 months after the claiming, she found someone wealthier. I have no mate, no prospects, and my family's status has declined since then. While you... He gestured at her crown. You have everything. I have what I earned, through skill and courage and refusing to let people like you define my worth. You have what you earned too. The consequences of choosing cruelty over character. We are both exactly where we deserve to be. She left him standing there, and felt nothing but pity for the man who had once had the power to devastate her. That night, She told Theron about the conversation. I should have been there. If he said anything, he said exactly what I needed to hear. That I am better off without him. That every rejection I suffered brought me here, to you, to this life. I am grateful for his cruelty now. It taught me to value the real thing when I found it. Theron pulled her into his lap, cradling her gently. You are extraordinary. You know that? I am ordinary. I just refused to believe I was worthless when everyone told me I was. That is extraordinary. Most people cannot do that. Isla kissed him deeply. Then I am glad I am not most people. Spring came again, and with it news that changed everything. Isla was pregnant. The court reacted with mix of celebration and concern. An heir secured the succession. But pregnancy was dangerous, especially for someone who had endured years of malnutrition in her youth. Maren monitored Isla closely, adjusting her diet, prescribing rest that Isla mostly ignored. She continued her work through the first 2 trimesters, treating patients and implementing reforms until Theron finally put his foot down. You are carrying my child, our child. Please, rest. I am pregnant, not broken. Women have been working through pregnancy since time began. And many have died. I cannot lose you. I will not. The fear in his voice made her finally agree to reduce her schedule. Maya, now 15 and brilliant, took over many of Isla's administrative duties. She managed the healing clinics with surprising skill, her sharp mind catching inefficiencies Isla had missed. She is better at this than I am, Isla admitted, watching Maya negotiate supply contracts with vendors. She learned from the best, but she has her own gifts. Let her shine. The birth was difficult, long and painful, complicated by Isla's medical history. For 12 hours, Theron paced outside the birthing chamber while Maren and her team worked. Finally, a cry, strong and clear. Theron burst through the door to find Isla exhausted, but alive, holding a squirming infant with pale blue eyes and a tuft of white blonde hair. A girl, Isla whispered. We have a daughter. Theron knelt beside the bed, tears streaming down his face as he touched the baby's tiny hand. She is perfect. She is loud. She has been screaming since arrival. I think she is angry about eviction from her comfortable home. She gets that from you. The stubbornness. She gets that from both of us. Poor child never stood a chance. They named her Lyra, after Isla's grandmother, the woman who had taught her healing, who had been burned as a witch, who lived on now through her great-granddaughter, who would grow up as princess and heir. The christening brought the entire kingdom together. Nobles and commoners alike came to witness the heir's presentation. Isla held Lyra before the assembled crowd and made a vow. This child will rule one day, and she will rule with both strength and compassion. She will know her grandmother's story, how knowledge was called witchcraft, how healing was called dangerous. She will know my story, how I was rejected and dismissed and told I was worthless. And she will ensure that no one in her kingdom suffers that way. This is my promise to you all. We are building something better. Lyra will continue that work. The crowd erupted in approval. Even the traditional nobles who had opposed Isla now saw the value of an heir raised with both royal authority and common understanding. Years passed. Lyra grew strong and curious, splitting her time between the library with Aunt Maya and the infirmary with her mother. She learned strategy from her father and healing from her mother and languages from Maya. Isla and Theron's reforms became permanent. Healthcare improved across all territories. Class divisions began to erode. The kingdom prospered not through conquest, but through investment in its people. And Isla, once rejected, once called worthless, once left to die in poverty, stood beside her king as equal and partner, proving that worth was not determined by body or bank account, but by character and courage. 20 years after finding a dying wolf in a trap, Queen Isla stood on the ramparts at dawn. The kingdom spread before her, prosperous, healthy, transformed. The villages she had helped during the epidemic had grown into thriving towns. The healing clinics she had established served thousands. The reforms she and Theron had fought for were now simply how things were done. Maya, now a respected scholar and advisor, approached with updates. The Southern delegation arrives this afternoon. They want to discuss implementing our healthcare model in their territories. 20 years ago, they mocked us for coddling the weak. Now they want our methods. Success is the best revenge. Maya smiled. Lyra is ready for her first solo council meeting today. She is nervous. Good. Nerves mean she cares. Overconfidence would worry me more. Lyra at 20 was everything Isla had hoped. Strong, intelligent, compassionate, but not naive. She had her father's strategic mind and her mother's healing hands. She would make an excellent queen someday. Theron joined them, his white blonde hair now streaked with silver, but his pale blue eyes still sharp. Reminiscing? Reflecting. There is a difference. Is there? Because you have that look you get when you are thinking about how far we have come. Isla took his hand. We have come far. From a dying wolf and an exiled healer to this. Sometimes it feels impossible. It was impossible. We made it possible anyway. Theron pulled her close. Do you have any regrets? Only one. What? That my grandmother did not live to see this, to see her knowledge honored instead of condemned, to see her great-granddaughter preparing to rule, to know that everything she taught me mattered. She sees, Maya said softly. Somehow I think she sees. That afternoon, Lyra presided over her first council meeting without her parents present. Isla and Theron watched from the observation gallery as their daughter navigated complex negotiations with the skill of someone twice her age. She is ready, Theron whispered. She has been ready for years. We just were not ready to let go. I am still not ready. Neither am I, but that is parenthood, preparing them to leave while hoping they stay forever. When the meeting ended successfully, Lyra having brokered a compromise that satisfied all parties, she looked up at the gallery and grinned. Isla's heart swelled with pride. That evening, the family gathered for dinner. Isla, Theron, Lyra, Maya, and Maya's husband, a scholar she had married 5 years prior. The conversation flowed easily, mixing politics and humor, past and future. Tell us the story again, Lyra asked, though she had heard it 1,000 times. How you met. Theron and Isla exchanged glances. Your mother saved a dying wolf, Theron began. Without knowing he was king, Isla continued. She pulled an iron trap open with her bare hands. He bled all over my only cloak. She sang healing songs all night to keep me alive. He shifted at dawn and scared me half to death. She offered to take me to a cabin instead of abandoning me. He revealed he was king and nearly gave me heart failure. They told the story together, finishing each other's sentences, laughing at remembered details. Lyra had heard it countless times, but never tired of it. This story of her parents' unlikely meeting and even more unlikely love. And the moral? Lyra asked, though she knew. That worth is not determined by appearance or status, Isla said. That kindness is never wasted. That sometimes the people who reject you are doing you a favor because they clear the path to something better. And that true strength is choosing mercy when cruelty would be easier, Theron added. Lyra nodded, satisfied. Later, after everyone had gone to bed, Isla and Theron walked to the forest clearing where they had married. The trees had grown taller, but the space was unchanged, still peaceful, still sacred. Do you ever miss it? Theron asked. The simplicity of before, when it was just us against the world? Sometimes, but I would not trade this for anything. The work we have done, the lives we have changed, the kingdom we have built together, it matters more than simplicity. We built it together. That is the important part. They stood in comfortable silence, holding each other as they had countless times before. "Thank you," Isla whispered. "For what?" "For seeing me. For choosing me when I had been rejected by everyone else. For proving that I was worth loving exactly as I was. For building a life with me that honored both of our values. For being my partner in every sense." Theron kissed her forehead. "Thank you for saving my life, for teaching me that mercy is strength, for making me better than I was, for loving me not because I am king, but because of who I am beneath the crown, for giving me Lyra and this life and 20 years of happiness I never imagined possible." "We saved each other," Isla said. "That is the real story. Not king rescuing commoner or healer rescuing wolf, but two broken people finding each other and building something beautiful from their scars. The best stories are." They walked back to the keep hand in hand, and overhead the moon, full and silver and watching, blessed the kingdom they had built on mercy, compassion, and the radical belief that everyone deserved to be seen for who they truly were. The rejected healer had become queen. The dying wolf had become the king who chose love over convenience. And together, they proved that the people society discards are often the ones most worthy of crowns. If your heart beat alongside ours, like, comment, and subscribe. Because every soul that joins our moon keeps the flame of redemption alive.